What is the Rolling Stones' biggest single to date? I Can't Get No Satisfaction. Released in 1965, it topped the charts in both the UK and the US, the first of theirs to achieve that. It's widely regarded as one of their best tunes, and it became a defining song in rock history. Did you know, though, that Keith Richards wrote the song in his sleep? And that song that we know and love today was only supposed to be a placeholder before they recorded something else. Yes, this story has been told many times before, but I believe when a story is so good like this, there shouldn't be a limit. And if it reaches just one new person watching this, well, it'll all be worth it. So let's go through the full fascinating story, and as always, if you love a bit of rock music history like me, and you're keen to learn some new facts and stories about your favourite bands, click subscribe and join our pack. Right then, the riff and title of the song was written by a half-asleep Keith Richards in the early hours of one morning in 1965. The location of where this happened varies from source to source. Keith wrote in one of his books that he wrote the riff in his flat in London, just round the corner from Abbey Road Studios on Carlton Hill. Others say it was in a hotel room while the band were touring America. But either way, in his hotel room or flat, wherever he was, when he woke up, he noticed the Philips cassette player he kept in his room had been tampered with. It was at the end of its spool, having wound its way through 45 minutes of tape. Now this was especially weird, as Keith remembered putting in a brand new tape just the night before. So, as anyone would, he rewound the tape and pressed play. And what he heard was, in his own words,
"In the morning, I remember nothing of this except that I see that the tape has gone from the beginning to the end. I run it back, and there's basically for 30 seconds, 50 seconds satisfaction."
According to Keith, after this, the tape played on with just 40 minutes of snoring. So Keith had risen in the middle of the night, still asleep or half asleep, recorded this acoustic riff, and then went back to bed. He literally wrote the riff for the song in his sleep. He had no memory of it the next morning. Now, while the snoring might have been the more interesting part to, say, Pink Floyd, Keith decided the riff might have more potential. Later, again, accounts vary, it might have been the very same day or even weeks later, Keith brought the recording to Mick, and it was clear that there was a lot of work to be done. After all, Keith only had the title and a very rough version of the riff at this point, and Mick Jagger wasn't even convinced it was a rock song to begin with. But from there, it became a collaborative effort. Over the next few days, the song began to take shape, as Keith Richards developed the now iconic riff, giving it its famous gritty tone with the help of a Gibson Fuzz box, which created the signature distortion we hear. Meanwhile, and this is a fact we do know for sure, Mick Jagger wrote the rest of the lyrics in Clearwater, Florida. So the Stones performed there on the evening of the 6th of May 1965, although the concert was cut short after 4 songs because the audience started to riot. The band were told to go back to their hotel, and it was there beside the pool that Jagger fleshed out the lyrics. Fun fact, the Church of Scientology would buy the hotel 10 years later and start hosting religious retreats by that very same pool. What a bunch of weirdos. Now, this was a typical dynamic for the Jagger-Richards partnership. Richards would lay down the core ideas and riffs, and Jagger would handle all the hard work filling in. Now, looking at those lyrics more closely, you can definitely feel the influence of America on Jagger as he's writing them. It criticised the modern world of the time, its commercialism, its fixation on consumer culture, and its failure to inspire a 22-year-old disillusioned with the status quo, using bold, provocative, and sexually charged language. For example, when I'm watching my TV and a man comes on and tells me how white my shirts can be, but he can't be a man because he doesn't smoke the same cigarettes as me. And later, when I'm riding around the world and I'm doing this and I'm signing that, and I'm trying to make some girl who tells me baby better come back, maybe next week, because you see, I'm on a losing streak. Now, it's important to say that the lyrics, particularly the chorus, drew inspiration from earlier blues and rock tracks, echoing Chuck Berry's 30 Days, which has the line, "If I don't get no satisfaction from a judge," and Muddy Waters' I Be's Troubled, which has the line, "I'm never being satisfied and just can't keep from crying." Soon, the band recorded the first version of I Can't Get No Satisfaction at Chess Studios, Chicago. This early take, featuring Brian Jones on harmonica and a cleaner, fuzz-free guitar tone, aired only once on American television, the show Shindig. Then it was binned and never seen or heard again. Interestingly, the producers of Shindig censored the song and cut out the line, "trying to make some girl," but kept in the following line, "on a losing streak," which according to Jagger is a reference to menstruation. So the producers didn't quite catch on to that one, did they? Then, in RCA Hollywood Studios, still in the spring of 1965, the band re-recorded the track, creating the definitive version we know today. The whole recording process of the single took just a matter of days. Interestingly though, Jagger and Richards wanted to re-record the tune again. Keith was convinced the song needed a horn section.
It was a sketch for what the horns should do.
Wow. So who said to you, "Hey, this sounds just fine on guitar. We don't need this."
Andrew Oldham said, "Boom, this'll do, Bubba."
So the song we hear today was originally intended as a placeholder, or scratch track. Despite Richards' protests, the guitar part stayed, the horns were left out, and the song hit shelves less than 4 weeks after it was recorded. The fuzz tone had never been heard before anywhere, and that's the sound that caught everybody's imagination. As far as I was concerned, that was just the dub. But 10 days on the road and it's #1 nationally. The record of the summer of '65. I learned that lesson. Sometimes you can overwork things. Not everything's designed for your taste, and your taste alone. By the way, the guitar riff was likely inspired by the horn arrangement in Martha and the Vandellas' Nowhere to Run. And if Richards had gotten his way with adding the brass, the resemblance would have been even stronger. So another good reason to have stuck with the guitar. However, we did later get a glimpse of what these horns might have sounded like, because Otis Redding covered the track. He included horns in his version. Now the horns do add something interesting, don't they? But credit to Andrew Oldham, the song didn't need them. By any means. If anything, I think the lack of them makes the song a bit more gritty and relatable. Keeps it a true-blooded rock tune, right? It has a very catchy title, it has a very catchy guitar riff and a great guitar sound, which was original at that time. And it encapsulated the feeling of the times, which was alienation. A sexual kind of alienation. Alienation's not quite the right word, but it's one word that will do. As I mentioned already, the single performed phenomenally well. You could argue it was the song that launched the Stones towards becoming one of the greatest rock bands in history. At the time of recording, the song is the 5th most played live at their concerts, at around 1,000. Even after so many times playing that same song, Keith isn't tired of it.
The weird thing is that every time I play Satisfaction, I'm finding like new ways, just a little lick here and a little bit there, and Charlie, and I was like, shit, man, wish we'd have put that on the record, you know. Yeah. But the fact is that the way things go, you wrote songs, and 5 days later you recorded it. You barely know the thing. Yeah, you know, it's true. And then you take it on the road for 50 years. I'm starting to get the hang of it now. Yeah.
Not the same story for one song that they stopped performing live completely. Not because they were tired of it. I've made a whole video on that. You can click over there to watch it next.